Gifted education can be extremely challenging for those that are new to it. The nuances of how a gifted brain learns, how fast a gifted brain learns, what you can expect from the child. So I'm very thankful that before we ever got to his kindergarten year, I've had a few years with my son learning his pace so that I knew exactly what to get for his kindergarten year. As usual, guys, I have a lot behind me and I am very excited about the options this year, so I can't wait to show you. Hi guys, I'm Kathleen Lewis. I am a homeschool graduate and now a homeschool mom to 2 kids, one of which is a gifted 5-year-old getting ready to start his kindergarten curriculum this year. Before I get into all the goodies behind me, I do have to define giftedness so we're all on the same page. Giftedness, for how I'm using it, is not academic advanced placement. Giftedness is a neurological difference in how a brain is wired and structured. This difference in the neurology does allow a gifted brain to learn material faster, make connections people don't normally make, and have a more intense experience of life. If you want to know more about giftedness, check up in the iCards to see that playlist I have out there, or down in the description, I've got a whole bunch of resources there from the experts in the gifted field. I also have to give 2 disclaimers really fast. First, every gifted kid is unique. There is a spectrum of giftedness. So what my child is doing may not look like what your child is doing. Secondly, there is, as I said, a spectrum of giftedness. There's levels of giftedness. There's levels of intelligence. So a profoundly gifted kid may be the one that is doing calculus at 5, maybe, or they may be actually reading The Lord of the Rings at 5. A moderately gifted kid, on the other hand, may only be a couple years ahead in math and may just enjoy listening to the audiobook of Lord of the Rings. So there is a spectrum, and every gifted kid will be unique. Let's get into the goodies. First thing is math. Now, we've been using Right Start Math for a little over a year now, and it is an excellent program. I love the methodology, but it is heavily teacher involved and also not written specifically for gifted kids. So I do modifications, especially eliminating a lot of the drills that my son doesn't need. And I want something that is a little bit more independent for him, that I'm not having to sit there and guide him through everything. So we are switching, and I'm super excited about this curriculum because I've been watching it for a long time now. We are switching to Beast Academy. I am in love with this. I've looked at it a little bit already, but there's a caveat I want to let you guys know about. I talked to the company about placement for my son because he is a learning reader. He is not fluent yet. And I wanted to know if level 2 or level 1 would work better for him for that reason. And the company replied and said, reading and writing are the 2 main reasons why they suggest ages at least 6 before they start with level 1. There's a third component in there, which I found out once I looked at the books. But I took their advice and bumped him into level 1, even though he could have gone into level 2 based on the placement test. The other thing I noticed when looking through the books is the essentially advanced level of how they explain each of the concepts in here. They do basic counting, they do basic shapes, they do basic patterns, but they don't stop there. These 4 books here, which are written for a kindergarten or 1st grade level, include Pascal's triangles, Fibonacci sequences, Sudokus, and that's just the beginning. This is full of challenging content with not a whole lot of repetition in order to be able to learn that content, which is why it's perfect for a gifted kid. So I'm excited. We have the online subscription as well. We'll see what works better for us, either the online subscription or this, and I'll let you guys know. Moving on to reading. I have been using All About Reading for the past couple years, but I have a gifted perfectionist, which is not jiving well with that curriculum. So I'll talk about it in a video at a later date, but we're going to continue on with developing fluency. We've been using My First Reading Library from Usborne, which is great. My son loves the stories, and they're shorter in length for him to be able to build confidence with his reading abilities. Another one that I've not pulled out yet, but will plan on using, is the Farmyard Tales with Poppy and Sam. This is a dual reader that has a child reading up at the top and the parent reading at the bottom through the story. The top is extremely short for a reading length. And that, I think, is going to definitely help my perfectionist build confidence that he does know how to read. And then once we get through all of these, we have other stuff that I had on hand. So I have the Life of Fred readers that I found used off of Facebook. So we'll get to those eventually again to build confidence. I had a whole bunch of readers that I got used from a book sale. And so hopefully being able to read Abelia Bedelia or really some nonfiction on his own will inspire him that he is capable. He can do this. He can blaze through without hesitancy. That was funny, hesitancy. I did not plan that, I promise. The other thing I'm doing is choosing some of these easy chapter books here, or a graphic novel like this one, which is the Narwhal series. Really cute. My daughter actually likes listening to this as well. But I'm planning on reading some of these easy chapter books to him as a kind of incentive to say this is what you can read by the end of the year if you just put the work in. So hopefully this will encourage him along those lines. Moving on to the rest of language arts, handwriting and spelling. So there's a curriculum I used back in the 90s as a homeschool kid, Getty Dubé's Italic Handwriting Series. I hated handwriting as a gifted kid, but this program worked well because it was smaller chunks that I could do independently. So I wasn't waiting around for my mom to do a lesson with me, and I could just choose to do it in the day whenever I wanted without her guidance. This is italic cursive and not regular cursive. Theoretically, it's easier to write and more natural for the hand to do. I don't think there's a huge difference except in legibility. Personally, I think italic cursive that's messy is still easier to read than messy cursive. But if my son wants to switch to cursive later, he can definitely do that. They have a cursive program with Getty Dubé as well. And then we've got Spelling UC Level A. This probably will be an easy level for him based on the phonics he's been learning with All About Reading. But personally, I think it is good to have kids have easy classes and challenging classes. The balance with a gifted kid is to not make something too easy that they get bored and not want to do it. So we'll start this. Hopefully he will fly through it easily, and we'll figure out exactly what level he is at based on how fast he flies through. Moving on, there is a idea out there in the homeschool community that you cannot have both a rigorous homeschool academic life and teach life skills. That idea is just wrong. And both my non-gifted siblings and I are examples of why that is false. We grew up on a 5-acre hobby farm, learning all the life skills, probably a lot more life skills than many homeschoolers out there with everything we had opportunity to learn. And my mom was amazing about that. And then we also had rigorous academics that we only took a couple hours to do every day. It is possible to have both. But there is a truth that we as parents often forget to plan for the life skills teaching in planning our academic year. So my son's been helping with basic chores. He's been cleaning up after himself, clearing his place at the table, making his bed. When I clean, I invite him to do specific tasks as he is capable and ready for. And I'm going to continue to do that. However, I asked my husband this year, is there anything else we should be adding on top of that intentionally? And he immediately said, yes, I want to start teaching him more shop skills. My husband grew up in a private school, but one thing he loved to do in his free time was go over to his grandpa's woodworking shop and watch his grandfather work and eventually start learning the skills of fine woodworking from him. It culminated in some of this furniture back here that you see that my husband made in high school in his grandfather's shop. So he wants to pass that knowledge on to our son. But we don't have that great of a shop right now, and our schedule has been full, so it's not been something that he has intentionally done with Stephen. Just gone out to the garage to do small tasks that have been needed, but nothing intentional. So he wants to change that this year, and that's going to be him intentionally planning a few projects to do with Stephen starting to teach him shop safety, and hopefully eventually inspire that to become a hobby of his own. Next up, we've got art. Stephen has not been interested enough in art for me to do a curriculum per se, but my 2.5-year-old daughter is obsessed with anything artistic. So I thought, since Stephen's going into kindergarten and I have a 2.5-year-old who loves anything art, it might be the best time to try this curriculum, The Way They See It, from Artistic Pursuits. It is a great program that teaches the parent who knows nothing about art, right here, I was never one to take art classes, about art, about what to expect from art at this young age, but also they have a picture study in here that you can begin to teach your child how to look at art and think about art. And then the third part of each lesson is an actual project where your child uses basic preschool art supplies to try to either mimic a technique or even a style that was the picture you looked at that day. So it looks really fun, and I think my kids are going to be a bit obsessed with doing this every week. Okay, next up we have Bump That Like Button to let me know you've been enjoying the content so far. So a bit more seriously, next up we have the Ology for Bible. We actually started this a couple months ago and have been enjoying it. It is a bit advanced, but my son's been able to grasp it. My daughter just sits and listens, so we'll switch to something more her level probably next semester. But yes, we've been loving this so far. The next curriculum, guys, I think I started gathering books for 4 years ago. So I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and that is Sunlight American History. This curriculum came out, I guess, 5 years ago now, and they've since switched it to first grade level because this was a bit much for most kindergartners, but my son's gifted. He can handle the content. And this is a 4-day program that I got here used. We will be modifying this a bit. I already have a Bible, so we won't be using the Bible, but I will be using the schedule here as a checklist. We'll be flying through the books a lot faster than they have in their schedule. But I will want to use the discussion questions in here and some of the elements like the timeline book, which I will keep even though we don't use Sunlight every year for history. So I will want to use this as we start learning other stuff about history as a way to plug it in, so that parts of history around the world will be in one spot for him to reference. This right here is all Sunlight has, this right here is all Sunlight has for their history. Granted, these 2 books have a lot of short stories in them, which could be a curriculum all on its own, in my opinion. Very great small biographies, but it's not enough for us. So I had to add some more stuff in. These books I pulled from the Beautiful Feet Early American History book list. Anything I could find used I picked up, or from the library I picked up. So yes, I have a lot more books here to supplement the Sunlight books with, but that's not all. I also pulled some books that I had picked up used from the series If You Lived. There's If You Lived with the Hopi, if you sailed on the Mayflower, if you lived in colonial times. But then I looked at my library and there's more. These are, I guess, an updated version from Scholastic. If you were a kid in the 13 colonies, kid during American Revolution, Oregon Trail, Civil War, and on the Underground Railroad. One thing that I'm trying to be cautious about as I do all these books is to give a balanced perspective of history. So that is why I have some Native American content come pulling in here. Another thing that helped me with that is Heritage Mom. If you have not heard about her, check down in the description. I'll drop a link down there for her website. But she is a Black mama wanting to teach history from a Black perspective to her kids. So she's got great book lists on her website, and then book lists for you to purchase as well. And so I looked at her lists and went to my library, which is this last stack here, and saw what she had from her list in my library. So we have the Black Regiment of the American Revolution, The Escape of Oni Judge, A Spy Called James, so books like that. I also scoured my library to see if there were any other books that had to do anything with American history, picture book style. So I got a few more of those, including Buffalo Bird Girl, which is kind of autobiographical. So I'm really excited to look inside and see what's in here for my son. And the books just keep coming. These are more books that I picked up used that I plan on plugging into the Sunlight schedules. So yeah, we have our history books for maybe a month or two. This will keep us busy. We will also plug in the Sunlight read alouds either by audiobook or by physical book, but we'll be going through that as well and using the discussion questions. It's 2 days after I just recorded that video, and I've also recorded my year planning video as well, which will be coming out soon. But I realized that I need to clarify something for you guys. I'm a gifted mama working from her perfectionism for a gifted child who is perfectionist. So the big list of history books that I added on to Sunlight, I need to be upfront and honest with you guys that it's possible I may decide not to do all of those books this year. The resources are available for me if I want them, but I have to gauge my son and his interest level because I don't want to be pushing content onto him that he's not wanting extra. I may pare it down to just what Sunlight has in the curriculum, but my guess is he's going to enjoy a lot of that. So I'm just going to have to gauge that. But the giant list does come from perfectionism. So watch out for that, you guys, as you plan your own curriculum. You may have a lofty idea of what the year would look like, and set really ambitious goals for yourself, which it's possible you could meet, but don't try to meet them at the sake of your child's sanity or your sanity. Okay, that's a lot. Is there anything else that I'm doing? Yes, there's 2 more categories, so stick with me. Science is next, and my son is going to be stoked about this particular curriculum. He has been asking about the human body, the human anatomy. I've been answering his questions, but I did ask him, do you want to learn more? And he says, yes, I would love to learn more. So we're not doing just 1, but 2 curriculums. We're going to start with Apologia's Exploring Human Anatomy. This is the elementary textbook, and I will continue with giving him the audiobook for him to listen to independently, and given basically an overview of the human body. But with him, I will also be using the second half of Blossman Root's Level 4 Science. We loved the structure of this last semester, and since they had the anatomy in here as well, I wanted to keep going with it. Also, if you guys want to get in on Blossman Root Fun, there is a sale coming up in the month of August, so go check out their website to see that sale. So Blossman Root includes wonderful video lists that are on YouTube, and I'll drop those videos onto my son's YouTube Kids app for him to do independently in the afternoons. It also includes great book lists, which we will get from the library, but 2 books that they do ask you to get are The Human Body or Smithsonian Human Body. This one I think is going to be a great visual reference, but not necessarily what we'll be reading. The entire program for anatomy is structured around this book here. So you will essentially read through this book and study the different parts of the body as they come up in here. It could almost be a standalone textbook. It looks really, really good. Also, one thing I'm going to be putting in here with the study on human anatomy is sex. Now, this is the material we'll be using to talk about it with my 5-year-old. If you guys want to know my reasons why I'm starting now, why I'm using this, I'll make a video for you. So drop that down below and I'll be happy to answer those questions. I am really excited to see what the combination of both these curriculums together looks like. Just as an FYI, this is completely secular, but from what I've seen for the physics and anatomy portion, it can be completely neutral. There's one section in there that you'll have to use discretion as a parent, whether or not that applies to your family beliefs for human anatomy, but she gives warnings about that. And this is a completely Christian creation-based science. So choose what works for you or like I did, choose both. My cell phone ran out of memory, so we had to clear up some space. Okay, I said there were 2 more sections left and we covered science. So there is 1 more section left for the curriculum for this year, and that is the extra curriculum, the extracurricular activities. I made these choices for social emotional development and just general non-school fun. So first thing in here is a big list of audiobooks that I have that we'll be continuing to listen to. The other class I signed Stephen up for is Nature STEAM through a local organization here. It is a 2-hour-a-week block class for the semester, teaching kids STEAM content through playing outside. With this, I did have to talk to the program director and say, hey, this is where my kid is at academically. I see you have kindergarten level classes here, but I'm concerned that he will be disruptive because he'll be bored. Can he go into Nature STEAM, which is for ages 6 through 9, so the early grades? And she said, yes, we've actually had kids come through like that before. So yeah, we'll put your son up with his essentially peer group intellectually. So we'll see how that works. I acknowledge this is a lot right here. So you may be wondering, how in the world am I going to fit all of this into my schedule, plus do something with my preschooler and have a life of my own? I'm glad you asked. I have a video right here next week when it comes out talking about how I'm going to schedule all of this out. So in the meantime, it's going to be whatever video YouTube thinks you should watch.